I'm going to go over some things here for everybody. First of all, I want to say that the new presentation is not a doctrine, it's not a teaching, it's not a path, okay? It is something that is just what it is. It's a presentation, it's an opportunity. You take from it, you decide what it will be for you. I created this because I was asked to expand upon what Paul wrote, and this is what I've done in my own particular way. And so I've seen it how I would have it for myself, and that is no restrictions. And yet in our personal lives, yes, we do have restrictions. We have, whatever takes place, and that's real. You make sense of things, but overall, with the real awareness, there's a much bigger view. And so from all that I've been through to this very point, to create this, to be able to see this and create it, you have to see it. And it's not just, so many people have gone through, and you hear them all the time. They're a master of this, they're this or that, or they've went through some institution. You see their websites. I don't look at any of this. Okay, these are all programs, is what they are, respectfully. And anybody can go through those things and all of a sudden get a degree, and it's like, oh, I'm this. Okay, all that is that just a bunch of memorizing words. That's all it is. Like old ancient wisdom. Anybody can read any doctrine, any so-called sacred or holy works, which there's no such thing as, and think, okay, well, I've read all these things. I'm holy. I'm focused on whatever. And no, that's not it either. It's the isness. And without the isness, you're stuck in creation. That's it. You're just circulating. What's so nice about what is being presented here, and very few people see it because, and I know why, it's because number one, their personal self and their emotional attachments are more important, and so that they've got to keep very busy with themselves because they have a busy life and they have things to do, and which is fine. Anybody can do whatever they want, but it all leads nowhere. Except whatever you decide, that's where it leads. And so this is where people just keep being busy, 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 just like now. It's Christmas time. Everybody's out there running around. I see them. They got the Christmas lights up. The trees around here, we have beautiful palm trees and that. All over the Hilton and Hyatt, they decorate these things with all these lights. And it's so fake. The trees are just beautiful without it. Could you see a bird flying by with a stream of lights on its tail? Would you want to see that? Or animals or whatever, etc. No. I mean, this is what humans do to themselves. And so what I wanted to talk about basically, to start off with, is once again, is the area of emotional attachments. Now, please keep in mind, and I have to continually define this because I understand, because when I was young in this, I misinterpreted things all the time because of how we're personally set up with the personal self. We don't see how we've come to be, all right? It's very interesting. All of a sudden, it's like we're here, but we don't see how we've come to be. And it's your real awareness that created you. And it's just like some of these stories, that a person will hear a voice or whatever, and the old idea is, I'm your higher self and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I have a higher self, or I'm part of you or whatever. And many times this is just us talking to ourselves. And it's like a mother talking to her child. And the child, doesn't know how they came to be here. But this is how you came to be here, because you created yourself. And the reason being is that through creation, by you creating something in creation, it itself goes through a process to eventually become aware and awake. This is just part of the process of life itself. But in the meantime, the gods of man have stepped in, what we call the gods of man, the authoritarians or whatever, and said, no, we created you. You know, you're to look to us. You're to bow and kneel and to worship us. What we have here after lifetimes and eons and space battles and physical battles and all these things, you know, we've come within ourselves and have to deal with all this molded stuff that we've carried and all these assumptions and all this distortion and bad ideas, and now we're at the point of sorting it out. It's a huge challenge to do this, but this is what it takes to see the is. And without it, there's nothing. It doesn't matter how good the idea is, doesn't matter how so-called wonderful things are. It's all controlled by the cow. This is Cal's domain. Creation is Cal's domain. That's to deal with his own cause and effect too. That's why he can basically only influence for the most part, because cause and effect, he has to deal with it also. And you know, so he'll take certain things on, of course, but for the most part, just like in the movie The Devil's Advocate, which is an excellent movie, which we talked about before, and it should be, it's not the devil, that's, the cow created the devil God idea, just like the elites created the political parties. See, they kind of create these situations and they stand back from it, because as they create these situations, this is where they get the attention from others. And this is how they control others, through particular means. And that's how they created the United States as a puppet country, and that's what they're doing, etc., for this world. But that's all they have is this world. And this is where they do not want this isness to be known. But for the most part, they already know. Nobody's going to buy this. They don't understand what the heck it is anyhow. And so, as Paul did what he did and presented what he did, he was referring to the isness, but he was taking it in baby steps, very, very slowly at a time, because people were not going to get there very fast. And when the next two came in, Darwin and Harold, they were given the opportunity, but they have to learn to see this on their own, and they never did. They were given a lot of experience. You can only be given so much experience. It's like a driving instructor. They can only take you around the car so long. It's like, if you're still going to drive your car and crash into things, well, that's just how it's going to be. You're just not a good driver. You're just never going to be able to drive. And there are people like that. They just cannot drive. They have to be driven, or they got to walk or ride a bike or whatever, but they just cannot drive a car. That's just one example. Some people will just not wake up to this. Very, very few people do. This is always the focus. Now, you have to consider, what is it that you want? What is your journey? The journey is like this. Here we start off, boy meets girl. All right, we already know all this. We've all gone through it. We went through high school. We went through the lovey-dovey stuff, the sensationalism, chasing the thrills, all this stuff. Everything's a thrill. Everything's funny, everything's goofy. Yeah, we eat what we want. Hey, life is good. Our parents take care of us. We make fun of our parents because they're squares, and the world, etc. We can just go do what we want for that short time being. But as we go along and we have to start to make our way and we start to see things differently, all of a sudden we see that, we have decisions to make along the way. And as we make those decisions, all of a sudden we think in our minds, well, gee, I've always thought this, or I've always thought that. And all of a sudden, it doesn't work anymore, does it? It doesn't work the same. It doesn't work the same as it did in high school, you know? And so it gets to the point sometimes where all of a sudden now, you know, here it is, you know, 5, 10 years after high school, as an example, that's all. A lot of people don't even want to know you. And you wonder why, because you can't see yourself objectively. But anyhow, the emotional attachments are the biggest thing. And that is, you decide how you want to be attached or not attached. Emotional attachments are restrictions. It's really that simple. We all have relationships. We all come into this life. We're all born through a woman. That's just how it is. Okay, this is the process here. This is how we get here. This is how the chicken gets here. It comes through the egg. It gets here and it has to break its way out of the eggshell to wake up to this world. It has to do that itself. The mother hen doesn't help. She just sits there and watches. It's like, okay, is it going to do it or not? And so everyone has their struggle here, and this is just how it is. The struggle to become more aware is what it is. And then to survive the world at the same time, and to eventually see the reality of ourselves as we are beings of light. We are so awesome, but yet we're not told this. There's, you know, and no way does it even come close to anything like that. We're given scientific ideas from the scientific community, and I look at what I've grown up through and all the nonsense. And these have their particular view, and they relate to a one-dimensional worm-like view of life on Earth. We're all like worms crawling on the Earth. And again, it's not a put-down, it's a reality. Everything has its place. It really does. And it's all workable. It's just how you see it. And so after a while, you learn to see everything and how to define it accordingly. And realistically, just like the real guides, we are being to being. The idea of love and marriage and all these things, that's all nice. But again, these things were all invented out of control. Do we see birds getting married? And when they don't want to be together, do they go to divorce court? No, again, these are things that have been invented, like the legal system, to control others. But it's been marketed and deceivingly, employed that, no, this is good for you. So you become emotionally attached to it because you're afraid to live without it. And then life's got you here. This life, okay, the fake life. And those that control the systems, etc. And so I've been through many relationships, and we all have through lifetimes. We've all done everything. We've all been men, women, children, parents, etc. We've all done it, and it's all okay. It's just a view. It's an experience. We've gone through drama after drama after drama, life and death. You know, we've been young. Next minute we're old. And we watch everybody else get old and die away, etc. We cry. We go to these funerals. We make up all these ceremonies thinking that it all equals something. And really it equals just a bunch of a gigantic pile after a while. You know, it's like the programs on your computer. It's like, you know, when you first get your computer, you start to do a few documents here and there, and pretty soon after a year or two, what do you got? Thousands that you can't even figure out. You got all these documents and all these things and stuff all over your desktop, and everything's everywhere. It piles up so fast. What do you think it piles up after millions of lifetimes, all these emotional attachments? This is where you look within yourself and you scare yourself. You all of a sudden have these dreams, and you don't even recognize it, but you're seeing worlds and worlds that are strange and weird, and they're really your worlds. But the very fact of the awareness of yourself to be able to recognize this and confront it, what you've created, you can very rapidly dissipate it so that it doesn't hang on you. But again, you are the decider You must decide. And this is where the is comes in. The isness life is. It's very important. Very, very important. But a lot of people take it for granted. Fine. Take it for granted. You have nothing. Paul talked about it. He wrote about it, I should say, in the Far Country, etc. Revizar hinted at it. But again, nobody understood it. I've defined it and redefined it the best I can. All I can do is hint at it. I've, created its own label with it. The nowness of the isness. And this is, it is real with what life is. And it responds accordingly, just like the NUUU. This is how it works. So you have the decision to make always, because everybody has relationships or whatever. It's not you give up anything. I've never said to give up anything. Never. And if there's that being implied, that's on a personal level from yourself. You decided that. You assumed it. Just like in the movie The Devil's Advocate, when he, suggested things, and then Kino was, I think they were on the bus, and he was very frustrated, or it doesn't matter what scene it was. He said, well, you said this, and you said that. He goes, no, I never said that. I never said that. He said, again, he was saying that, yes, I presented that to you, but you implied that I said that. There's a difference. Learn to define yourself. Slow down, be now, be real, and you will see so much more. The real romance is the journey of your heart. And when we stand together, and it's just like children playing. It's like brother and sister. It's like we're all brother and sisters. And we're being to being is what we are. We're on this journey. And as you learn to see beyond, what you've decided and assumed that you want as an emotional attachment that is not going to work anyhow, you'll be okay. You have to let things go, or you don't. You decide. You'll be chained to them otherwise. So as we get on with things here, we become beings to being. The journey becomes the adventure. This is how it is. We each do what we do. You see? We eventually have an opportunity, like the new presentation, and it's like what Paul presented when I was here in the 70s, when I first started in 1970. Paul on the outer here. That you have a real opportunity, to a real purpose now, to do something real. And with this real purpose, once you've decided this real purpose, life recognizes this and will back you. But if you just want to have your own personal life, and whatever you decide within it with your emotional attachments and all the little things you do every day, which I do every day too, but what comes first is why I'm here and what I'm doing. I only have one focus, and that's what I'm doing. It's not relationships, it's not anything else. And as that is my real purpose. Then everything else starts to work out, you see? But if you want to just play with your personal self, then life lets you be. It can't work with you. It's just like the teacher in school. If you're not paying attention, how can the teacher work with you? And so you decide your emotional attachments. And this is every moment. This is a challenge every moment. And just because all of a sudden you're with the guides and whatever, Everybody wants to know, well, gee, am I protected? Am I this or that? Where's the guarantee? And blah, 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 and all this stuff. There's none of that. I've written no doctrine at all. People are looking for doctrines, thinking in their mind that, oh, we have a doctrine here. And yeah, that'll work for a while, but then all of a sudden it doesn't work. Realistically, you have a warranty on your car when you buy it, 3 years. And if the manufacturer backs it up, you're lucky. Because they can just tell you, go get lost, sue us. And you'll spend all your money and your life suing them, and you'll get nothing. And they know that. But they want to keep going. But you in your mind will say, well, it's the law. They must obey the law. Yeah, they must, but at the same time, they know the tricks of the law. Because they have lawyers, and lawyers are taught the tricks. Because the legal system is a trick itself. It's like a magician's act, is what it is. All these systems are. They're just acts put on by magicians. And so last night I had a real confrontation with the cow of God. And it blasted all the way down here into the physical to where, geez, I thought it was going to burn my body. But what is happening to me is a blatant attack on me, and it's been done before. I mean, this is like a lightning bolt that came back. And I came awake, and then I went back. And this is just how it is. This is how it is while we're here. The cow forces, the cow of God, and all its agents everywhere, they don't want anything like this to happen. And that's the big fuss you're seeing in the world. You're seeing it physically playing out in the drama of all the distortion and war and killing and, just everything that's going on here. Anything that's distorted, it's because it's purposely done to control others and destroy them. That's it. People think in their mind, oh, we're progressing into the 21st or 22nd century. There's no progression here. That's all illusion. The birds just sit back and watch. Are they interested in progression? No. Life is an isness. For those of you that know, you're so lucky, because most of the world doesn't. They're struggling to find this. And even when they do come upon it, to recognize it, that's huge. This is a huge journey. And the recognition of this is ongoing. So I never take every moment for granted, because there's only so many moments here, and it doesn't matter if it's here or wherever, but you want to prepare yourself, or you don't, it's up to you, because at any moment you're going to leave here. And if you forget, then you forget. And then you are lost. And then there are others on the other side, the guides and that are there, but they cannot think for you. Sometimes they'll try and remind you, do you remember what you went through? Do you remember where you're going? They're not going to tell you what your life is. Remember how your mother used to tell you things all the time? That's different, because that's emotional attachment. That's control. And I've seen it. I've seen it where it becomes abusive, abrasive, and it becomes a disease. In book 2, Heather there, she stepped back simply because of her emotional attachments to her so-called family and relatives. It's a cesspool. I've seen it. It's like a murky river flowing through her house, and everywhere she's infected everyone, because she gives them all this slobbering love. She does the Christmas thing every year. She buys the biggest tree. And this is not a put down on her, but she's just so funny. She could just buy a regular Christmas tree. Now she's got to buy one that's 12 feet tall, barely fits in the house. She has double doors to the front of her house. I remember all the years I was with her. Can barely freaking get it into the house. I mean, she'd go down to the train station and get special trees. You don't find these on the lots here. She'd find a special one. Then she'd put on her 10,000 ornaments. I mean, this was her Christmas time thing, you see? Because this is how the Kalam god is too. Creates these situations that attracts others so that others go, oh my gosh, wow, oh, you really love us. You know, and then makes the big dinners and brings everybody together and, you know, talks about things, gets everybody emotionally attached and all warm and cuddly, watches the football game, you know, has all the goodies there. And today it's all GMO and, you know, you're going to end up diabetic. And she has many grandchildren and she just feeds them sugar and garbage. But it's all so wonderful. It's like, look what Grandma gave us. We're having ice cream again for breakfast. And so, I don't know if she does that, but it's close enough. You know, the breakfast cereals and all the garbage that people are fed, thinking in their mind, oh, gee, these things are good for you. Okay, fine. I don't care. These are emotional attachments. You want to be there? The end result is disease. That's it. People think through all of this process that some great happiness is going to occur. And life is bigger than happiness. Always constantly chasing this idea of happiness, being happy. And then when the person is happy and okay, it's like, well, gee, that's not good enough. We want to be more happy. You see? More happy and up and, you know, it's a new day, etc. Let's turn on the rock and roll music and let's get buzzing. You see? You know, to what? To do what? You know, to go fast forward into a future that does not exist, that is only getting worse. And so it's so wonderful to know the real guides and the process that I've been through and the understanding and what I can see and present. It all encompasses itself into this true completeness, which I call the new presentation, which again, there are no rules or regulations. There's nothing. It is simply a presentation. We make it up as we go. This is how it is. You know, it's like going out there, like Lewis and Clark, when the United States was young, you might say. Of course, the Indians were already here. They already knew what to do. They just stood up on the mountainside laughing at these people, thinking that, you know, here's Lewis and Clark thinking that, oh, I discovered this and I discovered this and whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's all a bunch of nonsense. It just depends upon your point of view. Life already is. And with this isness, you're taken care of. Once you stand there, once you're this being of light, but you must recognize this yourself, then you're okay. You're not the effect of anything. It's all being to be. That is the best relationship you'll ever have. But you must decide that. New